Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susanna Swiswiki. Coming up.
For the safety of our fellow Pacific peoples who are there, I just hope they are safe.
Israel strikes Iran, fears of war are mounting. Also, Bougainville independence talks finish and...
in the eyes of the law, they would have certain recognition or status.
Tonga's princess seeks legal rights for Wales. Israel has carried out strikes against a series of what it says are military and nuclear sites in Iran. US President Donald Trump earlier warned of a possible massive conflict in the region. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, told CNN that Israel chose not to wait to be fired on.
We woke up the entire people of Israel, about 10 million people in the middle of the night, because we expect that the public will be retaliation. We know it will not be easy today for the people of Israel, but we are determined, especially after October 7th, to take preemptive actions.
I spoke with Fijian media specialist Gilipi Abaringa, who is based in Abu Dhabi, and began by asking him if he heard the strikes.
Unfortunately not this morning, because I think they would have, from where we are positioned, because it's Dubai to Tehran, you've got about 485.48 miles to cover, so flight time is 2 hours. So they probably be attacked it from the other side, from the northern side. We wouldn't be able to hear any of these explosions from this end here. But just some updates on this morning. All the UAE airlines have suspended all their flights to Tel Aviv. Some of them have rerouted. They've canceled all their flights to Tehran. And I think both Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport and the Iranian airspace have been totally closed off now. So we're just checking on all the latest updates from the news teams here, the national UAE, which provides most of the updates to us.
Do you know of any Pasifika people in Tel Aviv or Iran? Have you been in contact with them?
I don't actually know them directly, but I assume if someone is there, then they would be working for an NGO or, under United Nations. But then, before all these things would have taken place, they would have been advised, well beforehand to either fly out of Tehran. Yeah?
How would you describe the situation that's happening between Israel and Iran?
Well, just in 2012, when before I came here to Abu Dhabi to be part of the opening of the Fiji embassy. I was in Tehran, fortunately, with my Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ratuneoki Kumbambola, who's currently the Fiji High Commissioner in New Zealand. So I was part of the team, and we went. And when we visited Tehran, I spoke to some of, probably they were from the Minister of Interior, just by mentioning the name Abu Dhabi, because we told them from there we'll be coming to Abu Dhabi for the official opening of the embassy, and they really got annoyed. They said, why do you guys want to go there? It's not a good country. So I how sensed, there's big difference between them, and even though they're only 2-3 hours away. So, but yes, it's been intense like that for all this time, and I think when you mention about Iran in this country, they all have their their differences. So it's probably something that has started a long way before.
Do you know of any Fiji military personnel that's currently being deployed in Israel or Tehran?
As far as I know, the closest they are those the Fiji military forces personnel that are based in Golan Heights. I was in Israel in 2023 when that attack on Israel citizens took place. We were there as part of the Fiji delegation to the Feast of Tabernacles in October. I was there on October 7th when it started. So I'm familiar with where the Fiji soldiers are right now. I would say they would be in the line of fire, because Golden Heights is very close to Israel. So any attack could hinder, their operations, could be a threat to them. I'm also aware that there are a few Solomon Island students studying in an agricultural institute in south of Israel. We have Fiji nationals, I think it's about 3 or 4 of them who work for the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. I haven't contacted them as yet, but I presume they would be under some sort of monitoring and, advisory capacity could have gone to them right now because it's quite a vulnerable area for us that have been there. Iran is there. We've got Hamas operating out of Lebanon, so quite tricky, quite risky. And if, for the safety of our fellow Pacific peoples who are there, I just hope they are safe as for now. Yes, this is probably the first time Israel has attacked Iran directly. I just read this morning that President Trump had issued his advice also for Israel not to attack Iran. So everybody thinks that Iran has a huge a nuclear deposit with them that they could use it against any country in the world. But, that is to be seen. So right now, we from the Pacific, we're right in the middle of everything. And I think, our safety is paramount for our people.
Talks to try and settle an impasse over Bougainville's progress to independence appears to have ended inconclusively. The talks were held in New Zealand at the Burnham Army Camp near Christchurch. I spoke with Don Wiseman in Christchurch this week, who says Burnham is of some significance to the parties.
Burnham was used for critical talks on two occasions back in 1997, and this led to the end of the Bougainville Civil War, what is now 28 years of peace. It's been dubbed Burnham 1, these meetings, Burnham 2, and then this week, Burnham 3. The PNG Prime Minister James Marape, who was here briefly just last weekend before he flew over to Nice, to the sunny climes of Nice and the Oceans Conference, he called Burnham the spiritual home of the Bougainville peace process. And these are ideas that have been reflected by other leaders as well.
So did it create profound change?
No, not as far as we can see. Media have been kept out of the meetings, and to date, no one has said very much, and another meeting's been put in place for the end of this month, which perhaps shows that little progress has been made over the past week. Bougainville's very interesting in getting its referendum tabled in Parliament and get this sorted out before the autonomous government elections get underway. The writs are due to be issued for that election in a little over 3 weeks' time, so after that, the politicians will be tied up chasing re-election. The PNG Minister of Bougainville Affairs, Manasa Makiba, who took over after Mr Marape went away, issued firm instructions he would not be talking to the media. And as far as the Bougainville team go, we have heard very little to date.
Bougainville's government has stated that it wants to be independent by September 2027. What's the critical hold-up there?
It centres on this issue of getting the referendum tabled in Parliament, and this hold-up's been going on for a couple of years. Bougainville expected it to be in Parliament in 2023. But here we are in 2025. The referendum's very significant. It was a vote of 97.7% in favour of independence from PNG. Now, technically, it's a non-binding referendum. But this phrase non-binding, the president of Bougainville, Ismail Toruama's taken exception to this week, saying you can't talk about something being non-binding when the outcome was so dramatic. So he doesn't like the use of that word or those words non-binding. Mr Makiba had been seeking an absolute majority of MPs to support the tabling, but Bougainville fears this. It says it should just be a simple majority of MPs at this point in the process. Its Minister of Referendum Implementation, that's Ezekiel Massa, he says it's the later constitutional questions where you can justifiably apply an absolute majority.
There's been a report that the tabling will go ahead, so what can we make of that?
Well, it's a little bit hard to say because there's no detail attached to it. We don't know precisely when this will happen. We did have Mr Marape saying earlier, before the meetings officially got underway, that he accepted the need to resolve the matter this year.
Now, former Governor-General Sir Jerry Mataparai has been mediating the talks. How significant is his role?
I think it's pretty significant. He's highly regarded by both sides. Sir Jerry, of course, has a very close association with Bougainville because he headed the peace monitoring teams that were sent in after those initial talks at Burnham back in 1997. Now, he's put out a statement at the conclusion of these meetings, and he said they're wanting to find a pathway to peace by peaceful means. The statement also says the delegates placed a lot of emphasis on shared values and commitments, and that a homegrown solution is necessary, and one that maintains a close, peaceful, enduring, familial relationship between both PNG and Bougainville. And they referred to this as a Melanesian partnership. There was one thing that did come out of these meetings that could be reasonably significant, and that's a bipartisan parliamentary committee is going to be set up fairly promptly, I understand, and this would aim to inform the PNG politicians all about Bougainville, because there's a sense among the Bougainvillian members of the PNG Parliament that a lot of the people they're sitting against and alongside in Parliament don't know anything about what went on in Bougainville, because it was, it was a generation and a half ago. So that could be significant.
Tonga's Princess Angelica Latu Fuipeka Tukuaho is calling for Wales to have legal rights. The princess joins other leaders in New Zealand and the Cook Islands who last year signed a treaty, He Whakaputanga Moana, to recognise Wales as legal persons. I spoke with the University of Auckland's Dr. Justin Sobion and began by asking him what will happen if Wales are granted legal personhood.
The fact is, if Wales are granted legal personhood, it would mean that the law, in the eyes of the law has the potential to create certain rights or legal obligations. Well, I shouldn't say obligations, to create certain rights, and in the eyes of the law, they would have certain recognition or status before the law. So I think what is being done is nothing new, really, in what we have seen, especially in the Pacific area. We have seen, for example, New Zealand, the first country in the world to grant legal rights to the river, the Whanganui River, legal personality to the Whanganui River, and also to the Porirua National Park. Now, so I think it sets the tone as how individuals or the present generation's relationship with nature and with respect to themselves. So I think it's very important to set the tone how we see ourselves and with respect to the natural world.
So when you say setting the tone, does that mean that if they are granted personhood, that it will stop illegal or harmful activity?
No, it would not stop automatically by the passing of a law, by the passing of a declaration, as we have seen. But what it would say is that whales and dolphins, for example, in this case, whales are sentient beings. They are cetaceans, for example, and we have a strong connection or duty and obligation. So just the fact that you're saying that whales have a legal personality, that's not going to solve the problem. But especially for the present generations and the future generations, it shows that they have legal standing. So as I said, in the eyes of the law, they will be recognized as having a personhood. And now when we say personhood, there's a difference between legal personhood, which what we are seeing here, and human personhood. So we're not saying that whales are humans, but what we are saying is that they have just like how a company could be a legal person, or a ship could be a legal person, and recognized in the eyes of the law. What we are saying is that by granting this status, the human beings are the ones who will have to invoke that protection. It would give us, more motivation or enticement to go in that direction. But it is still a lot of hard work, I would say.
What would you say are the arguments or opposing views to this treaty or personhood?
Well, I know, for example, in the case of the Whanganui River, for example, they were saying, well, if you give, so this is, of course, this argument against it, if you give the river legal personhood, that means or legal rights, like an individual. So with rights come obligation. Does that mean if the river was to cause someone to drown or overflows its banks and destroy property, who is going to sue the river? Now, this is when you talk about more giving the status as human beings. And we're not saying we're giving them the status as human beings. We're just recognizing them as an entity in the legal sphere of things, so that we as individuals, they can't speak for, we can't speak for they can't speak for themselves in court. So we are saying that now you can have human beings as guardians or the face of these natural spaces or animals or sentient beings. So we now have a duty or responsibility. Just as I said, it's nothing new to New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand. We have the human face for the Whanganui River with two persons, and they are actually called the Kaitiaki Tanga, or the guardians. So we are saying the same thing. We as future generations, and it's not going to affect us, it's more going to affect the future generations, the generations to come. We must see ourselves as Kaitiaki Tanga, or guardians of sentient beings, and to protect them for future generations to enjoy, not only being anthropocentric like future generations of human beings, but also in the end it would extend to the future generations of these sentient beings. So they will be also preserved and not become extinct. So I think that is the greater aim, or the long-term aim, that we have to stretch towards, and not look at it as a short-term kind of measure.
So then how do you see this treaty as a win for Indigenous justice or Pacific communities?
Definitely it is a win. And I will say that because very recently, well, when I say very recently, at least maybe 5 years ago, and this, of course, New Zealand started the trend, right, in legislation. But we've seen a lot of cases coming out from India, for example. India has said that the Ganges River, the glaciers, 2 glaciers, right, in India, in the northern states, have legal rights. They even went so far in a case, I think it was called Bat in the Union of India. They went so far to say that the entire animal kingdom should be declared as legal entities having a distinct persona. So I think it's a win, because the general trend is now moving towards not only natural spaces on the environment, but is now moving towards actual sentient beings and the entire animal kingdom. So I think this is another tool that we have in the toolbox to say, well, we have whales in this agreement. We have India saying the entire animal kingdom. So this is legal precedent in the making.
The Pacific Climate Warriors Aotearoa Te Whanganui Atara is a youth-led grassroots network working with communities to fight climate change. An event in Porirua recently brought together climate advocates and Pacific artists, and Moira Tuile Patela went along and filed this report.
The Pacific community came out in force to support the event, which included a series of workshops such as Siva Samoa, New Way in Weaving, Fijian Masi Kesa, that's tapa printing, music and spoken word. The arts was used as the vehicle to deliver the climate crisis message. Bethany Mataiti, a co-coordinator of the Pacific Climate Warriors, Te Whanganui Atara group, explains.
Well, lots of our arts, especially when it comes to Pacific context, rely on utilising the land and our connection to Te Taiao. So it's really special for us to have people from all across Aotearoa with connections across the Pacific, being able to showcase our knowledge and our expertise, especially when it comes to these different art forms.
Zek Soakai wears many hats, and at the event he was the facilitator for spoken word. He says it was an honour to be asked to take part.
This work is just as important, if not more so, because it's with our people, it's for our people, and it's with us at the heart of the centre. So I'm so grateful for PCW for putting this on, and for Creative New Zealand for funding it, and I hope that there's more spaces like this, because it's more than just Porirua who needs this, right? Like, I come from South Auckland and we get too much stuff, but like out into the provinces, out into the rural areas, we have our Pasifika communities who are crying out for this sort of stuff. So I just hope that we can go there and be there with them and break bread and tell stories, because that's how change happens.
Tatiana King Finauvala, who came along to find out what the event was about, says groups like the Pacific Climate Warriors reminds her that Pacific communities are not victims in the climate crisis.
We are standing up for ourselves. We're using art as a platform for liberation. I think the climate justice space seems so inaccessible a lot of the time. For us brown communities, we're left out of the conversation a lot of the time, and I'm just like, we're the people that are being the most affected, so tell me why we're not in the spaces that are making big decisions around what's going to ultimately affect our homes, like our home islands.
Bethany Mataiti says the event is part of a 3-part series that's been created in partnership with Creative New Zealand.
The first part was an online talanoa kind of piece, and that was telling our story. What we're doing today is our power, so we're looking at the different ways that we can build power for our climate movement. And then the third part is really about showcasing the work that we're creating today. So we've got 5 different workshops. We're creating pieces that will be exhibited at Te Auaha on the 3rd to the 6th of July. So we welcome the community to come and be part of that.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, sui fua.